Okay, yeah, that's nice.
If they hear us, they'll kill us. Okay? Let's find a car. We'll make it to your Aunt Nanny's house.
Right.
What?
Right.
I can't hear you.
Aunt Nanny.
Hoot Nanny.
Let's do the Hoot Nanny.
What are you doing?
Hoot Nanny.
I can't hear you. We just need to be a little quiet.
Okay.
Very quiet place here.
Okay, it's a very quiet place. Okay.
Let's go to your old Aunt Nanny.
What? You better not. You hold that fart in. So help me God, if you don't hold that fart in, I'm gonna... God damn it, Chris!
We'll have to go home. Ian, we are here because that new movie just came out from Netflix called The Silence,
Yes.
which I had no idea was coming out. They just, again,
Drop it.
dropping it,
Like it's hot.
kind of. Things to note about this movie is that
It bears a striking resemblance to an existing movie.
several existing movies.
Well, one in
Well,
particular,
one in particular,
which is, of course, Jurassic World.
of course.
Because you've got these creatures that are not dinosaurs per se, but they bear a striking resemblance to the Dimorphodons.
No.
So noticeable
I was-
in the first Jurassic World, but they were also in Jurassic World Fallen
But
Kingdom.
they were also very similar storyline to Reign of Fire, in which you unleash dragons from the center of the earth. And also, they act very much like the aliens on Pitch Black.
Okay.
But obviously, we're talking about A Quiet Place, right? Like,
Sure.
very similar idea to The Quiet Place, where you have sound.
Though, I imagine there's going to be some people who are outraged that this is just a rip-off of A Quiet Place. Meow, meow, meow. And I would like it to be noted for the record that this is based on a novel that came out in 2015.
Yeah.
And this was filmed in September of 2017, about 5 months before A Quiet Place was released. So they may have known it was coming, and it's probably a situation like, oh, they're doing that. Oh man, I can't believe we're already in production on this. So this is not a straight like we saw that, let's rip off that kind of a thing.
No, it's just very similar.
I think we have more of a Volcano Dante's Peak kind of situation going on here.
Yeah, I agree. So, The Silence, it is directed by John R. Leonetti, who you would know from a little movie called Wish Upon, which is another terrible movie.
I was thinking
loved.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat Annihilation. But you should watch Wish Upon. It is really bad. It features
And Annabelle.
Ryan Phillippe as a trash diving dad, dumpster diver. I believe that's the technical term.
Technically speaking.
If you look at his job resume here, it says dumpster diver.
So you've got some people doing some work down in a cave. They break open a seal to a much larger cave network that is previously undiscovered and has been isolated from the rest of... It's an ecosystem that's been separated from the rest of the world for millions of years. So it's been evolving in a different way, and these creatures burst forth and take over the world, killing people. And they
That must have been a big-ass cave, I'll tell you
because
that.
they're
Yeah.
yes, it is certainly implied that it is the largest cave. They even mentioned it's bigger than the whatever cave system in the other side of the world. I don't remember which one it was, but yeah. So they come out and they breed very rapidly. They spread very quickly, and they take over the earth.
So what'd you think?
I thought it was fine. I liked it. If we're gonna compare it to Quiet Place so much, I liked Quiet Place better. But this was fine. It was a pretty generic kind of an action, vaguely sci-fi kind of a thing. For something that is on a service that I already pay for and didn't have to put any extra money down, perfectly fine time to spend an evening. There's some things that we'll get into that I didn't love about it, but...
I think this movie's garbage, but...
Really?
I didn't not enjoy watching it.
Yeah.
It's pretty bottom of the barrel writing, and feels more like a bunch of things thrown together than an actual storyline.
Well, again, because it's based on the novel by Tim Levin, I think it falls into some of the similar traps that a lot of adaptations do, where they're trying to cram in
Maybe.
more story than you can usually get into a movie. So I did take the time to listen to the audiobook today. I didn't quite get all the way to the end, but it's an 11 and a half hour audiobook as read. To try and cram all that into an hour and a half movie is a bit challenging for sure.
Okay.
So I would say the one thing that took me out of this movie more than any others was the time scale. And having listened to the book, it makes more sense now. But like, it seemed like there were certain events that happened that like people had adjusted and felt like they'd lived in this world for a really long time. What seemed like 24 hours after these monsters showed up. It's like, really, you guys are already resorting to this kind of nonsense 24 hours later? And like the time scale kind of took me out of it just a little bit. But overall, like I said, I still mostly enjoyed the movie. And when I listened, and I immediately went, that much, because I hadn't read the book yet at that point, or listened rather. And I went, oh, that must be like, they're getting elements from the book, but like they're not quite fitting, and that is in fact the case, because in the book, the events I'm referring to do happen after, at minimum, several days, if not several weeks into this apocalypse.
That would explain why everything feels underdeveloped, at least to me. Like that's how I felt. Like there's nothing developed in this storyline. But I question that. Like you say, oh, there's so much to jam into an hour and a half movie, but like literally nothing happens in this movie. So
yeah. I would disagree. I'd say a lot happens, although it's not necessarily all like big and grandiose and very cinematic at all times. But like, it's certain things like your final bad guy. He doesn't even show up until 20 minutes before the end of the movie. So
yeah, it felt tacked on.
But again, I think that's more a function of the fact that you're adapting the novel. And then the monsters are there for a good chunk of the movie too, but they're not ultimately your main antagonist to your conclusion.
That's like that's not like, I can't just forgive it for that. You know what I mean?
No,
like,
I'm just pointing it out. I'm not saying it's good or bad.
So the storyline is similar, though, to the book?
Very similar.
Okay, that's it.
They definitely condense certain things and skip some unessential things, but pretty much everything you see in the movie happened in the book, at least kind of. They might have changed things a little bit here and there.
So, in comparing it to A Quiet Place, like A Quiet Place spends a lot of time with the family, and you get to like the characters, and you get to see their relationship, and you get to see the issues they have.
And there are some more distinct themes to that movie.
There's more themes, and so when characters are put into danger and peril and people do things, I actually felt something for those characters.
Okay.
But in this, I never got attached to anyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't help that, what's-her-face, Kiernan Shipka, who plays Sabrina the Teenage Witch, basically has the emotional range of a baked potato, as far as I'm concerned. She is a terrible actress.
Oh, that's not true.
She is
I don't think she
bad.
did a great job in this movie.
I don't think I've ever seen her do a good job.
I thought she's great in Sabrina.
She's terrible in Sabrina.
By the way, this is, I was going to make the joke earlier, and I forgot to, that this is basically Sabrina, this is Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Part 3, because we've got multiple Sabrina actresses in this.
But you do have Stanley Tucci, who is a good actor.
He's a very good actor.
Lately, he's been doing some crap. Like, he did that Patient Zero movie, which is another garbage pile. And I question why he's in these movies. And maybe he's forced at like gunpoint. They're like, you need to do this Netflix movie.
Nonsense. Saw an opportunity to work with certain people.
But to me,
Miranda Otto is a great actress.
But to me, this movie feels. There's movies like this where it's like, oh, this is a real actor. There's that Cell movie or something with Samuel Jackson and John Cusack, where it's like this movie just dropped randomly, and it feels like it was in production hell for years. And that's what this movie feels like. Feels like shot together scenes that aren't completely bad. Some of them are kind of fun, but like the whole experience is just a mess.
I think that's pretty common for novel adaptations, though. Like, they're trying to do the things in the book without really necessarily telling the best story at all times.
I would say if you're gonna take, that's why like The Shining, Kubrick's version is good. It's different than the novel, but it's made more for a visual storytelling. And I think that's what makes a good adaptation. You know what I mean? You don't have to do everything in the book. Use it as a stepping stone or whatever. I don't know.
So I will say that there's a trend in sci-fi novels. Maybe it's always been there, and I've just lately been getting into some of them, where basically all you do is take, well, I should say sci-fi and post-apocalyptic novels, where basically you just take characters, you put them in an environment where they're in one place and they need to get to another place, and then the whole book is just them doing that. Like, the tension is, will they get there or won't they get there? And then the author's challenge is to put enough interesting obstacles in front of them for them to overcome. Enough so that it's worth the journey, but not so many that you bore your reader. And like each individual one doesn't matter that much. It doesn't necessarily advance the story or do anything, but you can pull out, and the novel does this. There's just lots of barriers that like you could pull out any number of them, and it doesn't ultimately change your story. And that's what got turned into this movie. And they did a good job of condensing it and eliminating a lot of the unnecessary stuff, but you're still trying to do a lot and still trying to hit the events more than you're trying to tell a good story within the framework of a movie.
I think the events are fine. It's that like the core of the movie is supposed to be this family.
Yeah.
And they just don't care about it at all.
Yeah, not enough.
Oh my Jesus Christ, your titty just popped that microphone right off. It's like
I would have liked a stronger
character
attention
study.
to character.
Yeah.
And that's what A Quiet Place did so well. It did two things really well. One, it create a very visceral experience in the way that this just did not. And most movies don't in this way. Like, it just created that really cool, like, atmosphere. And Quiet Place also did a very good job of, like, developing themes through their characters and, like, bouncing the characters off of each other in a way that reflected the different ways they dealt with their trauma.
That, yes. And they also didn't, like, show the perfect way to get rid of their creature. Dude, he turns on a wood chipper and all the creatures go into it. I'm like, okay, this is how are we losing? How is this apocalypse if you can just turn on a wood chipper and all the fucking bats fly? Like, it was the rules of this world are a little unclear. Like, Sabrina, I'm just calling her Sabrina. Who fucking knows what her name was in this movie? Allie. She is deaf. It serves no point to this movie.
Other than that this family has a little bit of a competitive advantage in that they can talk to each other using ASL.
They use sign language, but they talk it the whole time as well, so it's pointless. And she's like using
they do it softly when they do.
And she's using her tablet. She's got like the volume as maxed up as possible. Like, dude, you're deaf. Turn that shit off.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah. There's certain things that as I listened to the story today through the book, that I got a lot more. Like, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that's why they did that in the movie. I didn't get that out of the movie. Like,
the movie also has like a bunch of voiceover from her, which is weird because she's really not the main character most of the time. It's like focused on Stanley Tucci, so it's like jarring. I thought like it opens with her and like this teenage boy, and she's like, "You smell like Twinkies" or something. Fucking stupid. So I thought we were in for like this stupid teenage love horror movie. You know what I mean? But that's like forgotten about as well. So it's weird tonally because you got like weird gore scenes, but then you also have this weird teenage crap that nobody gives a fuck about.
I'm not trying to forgive it this way, but just pointing out it makes sense that it happened that way because in the novel the perspective.
This is it, Ian. You were never allowed to read the book before we watch a movie.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to give a little context for our viewers.
This is not fair.
Our viewers may want some additional context, and if I can provide it, it is my duty.
Okay.
It is my duty to give it to them. But no, the perspective does shift between the daughter, Allie, and the father, Hugh, from chapter to chapter.
So if they would have had some sort of dynamic between them two, that would have been a great idea.
And they do have some, not as well as you'd like.
Yeah.
And they did a great thing in the audiobook, if you go that route, where they have a male reader read his chapters, and they have a female reader read her chapters.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Which is much better, because sometimes you just have, like, you know, a dude do both, or a lady do both, and it just ends up being awkward and weird.
Yeah. This is what happens if you take A Quiet Place, Rain of Fire, Pitch Black, Bird Box, and you put it all together, and you drink it, and you shit it out into a bunch of different scenes, and then you put it on Netflix. I'm surprised, what's his face? John Malkovich isn't in this movie.
Oh,
like
right?
Cantankerous old man who shows up. I thought that was going to be him, that house they showed up to.
This is a crappier version of A Quiet Place and even a crappier version of Bird Box, so no, don't watch this. Watch those instead. Yeah.
Watch this too, though, if you've seen those two.
Sure.
I would say I liked Quiet Place the best out of the three. I liked Bird Box the least out of the three. Oh, don't tell me you liked Bird Box now. You didn't like it when
I think Bird Box is better than this. Not much, but it is. It's fine. This is just bad.
It may be technically better, but I liked this more.
I felt a little something in that movie.
Okay.
All right. That's it. We'll catch you here next time. Same time, same Netflix shit movie. What do you think they're going to do next? It'll be like, they're blind and deaf and there's aliens. And it's just people like wandering around in the darkness. We're like, what?
Helen Keller versus Alien versus Predator.
There you go. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where they go.